justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, so let us maybe get started. I don't have a statement for tonight outside of wishing everybody a happy holiday season, as this will be our last board meeting for this year. Wish you all an enjoyable time off with your family and loved ones and kiddos and all that good stuff. So with that, let's kick it over for the presentations.
All right, so we have tonight the opportunity to celebrate the service of Mrs. Karen Maddox to the Board of Education. Mrs. Maddox has been with us for 6 years. Sure. Why don't you stand while we read this resolution that will be entered into the minutes of the Board of Education. So, whereas Mrs. Karen Maddox has served with distinction on the Spring Lake Board of Education from January 2019 through today, December 2024, and whereas Mrs. Maddox has served as the chair of the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, where her insights as an educator have made a lasting impact on programming, and whereas Mrs. Maddox has also served on the policy, personnel, and other committees at different points during her tenure on the board, and whereas Mrs. Maddox always kept children and their best interest at the core of her decision making, and whereas Mrs. Maddox was resolute in her promise to the taxpayers of the borough to push for high academic standards while maintaining sound fiscal practices, and whereas Mrs. Maddox has been relied upon for her institutional wisdom of the Mounts programming and traditions, and to serve as a steady hand to her fellow board members, and whereas Mrs. Maddox consistently served as the champion of the students while celebrating the district's accomplishments, and whereas Mrs. Maddox proudly represented the Board of Education as the liaison to the H.W. Mounts PTA, and whereas Mrs. Maddox rarely missed a meeting to fulfill her unwavering commitment to serving on the Board of Ed, whereas Mrs. Maddox always performed her duties with professionalism, great respect, and truthfulness, and therefore be it resolved in recognition of her efforts that the Spring Lake Board of Education will add a book of her choosing and in her name to the H.W. Mounts School Library collection, and that this resolution shall become part of the official minutes of the Spring Lake Board of Education.
We officially have a plaque for you. And just on a personal note, I have to say, I mean, Karen and I started this little adventure together, and she has been nothing but amazing. I actually don't know if I can do this without tearing up a little bit. So Karen has been nothing but amazing in the last 6 years of us working together. She has been thoughtful about everything and anything we've talked about on the board. She's been a constant person for me to brainstorm with and ideate with when we were talking about strategies for curriculum, personnel, anything that the school had to deal with. She's done the teachers negotiation with me. So I just, I can't say how much I'm gonna miss you. It's a lot. But I think the years you put in here have been amazing, and I truly, truly can't thank you enough for the time you've spent with us. So thank you.
Just a few words. First of all, I'd like to thank my fellow board members. It's been a great run. We've done some really amazing things. So I will definitely miss that camaraderie, but we'll see
All right, anything else? Okay, all right, so with that, we're gonna move on to liaison reports. So, buildings and grounds, we did have a meeting, around buildings and grounds and reviewed kind of the progress on the various initiatives we're walking through. I think we have a couple things tonight, you're gonna walk us through, yeah, we wanna do that.
Yeah, I would say pertaining to buildings and grounds, I'm happy to report that after receiving initial quotes of over $45,000 to install the controls and the gas detection devices for our new boilers, we remain diligent in determining cost savings, and tonight you're going to see a recommendation for the board to join the Bergen County Cooperative. By doing so and purchasing through this cooperative, we'll save the district approximately $15,000 towards that regard. You want to pretend we're doing this all over again as pneumatic fan? This work will be scheduled to be completed in mid to late January with limited disruption to our neighboring properties, as all work will be completed indoors and only one vehicle expected on site during this time. Additionally, we have scheduled for electricians completing rough installations to be on site during the holiday break. Again, vehicles can take advantage of the south side of Tuttle to park and also the Parkney playground, so limited disruption to our neighbors. And the reason I'm sharing this report is that I'll also share with our neighbors who signed up to receive our communications. And lastly, the more substantial project of replacing our unit ventilators and cabinet heaters, it remains on hold until we get from Trane, the manufacturer, a timeline of when they can have the units created. So there's really little else happening with regard to actual facility work at this moment.
Yeah, I think just two call-outs there. One is the communication to the residents of the surrounding surrounding houses that signed up. We'll all now get an official report out after every board meeting. So I think that was great, and we actually had a lot of people participate in that. And then the second call-out is just thank you to Dr. Lavalva for continuing to explore ways to save money, and by joining the Bergen Co-op, which doesn't cost us anything, we're grabbing incremental savings. So as always, very thoughtful in his approach to our buildings and grounds. So appreciate that. All right, curriculum instruction, your final committee report.
Time to Time is up and running, so that's extra academic support for the kids. Students were selected based on teacher recommendation, and it's up and running and it's going very well. Winter enrichment, they are going to be offering half a dozen enrichment opportunities this winter. The course catalog has been distributed to the students, and they get to pick their enrichment. Mrs. Marcus Feld is headed to her her national conference. I couldn't think of it. I know she goes on a couple of conferences. She's headed to that in January, so we look forward to hearing from her report. And last but not least, report cards were distributed successfully, and that's always like a work in progress as we continue to fine tune report cards.
Is that the first one with the new system?
Yes.
Okay, great.
But we're always tweaking, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, as long as it went out.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I just should mind.
All right, great. Anything else on curriculum and instruction?
No, that's it.
Okay, finance, Mr. Moran is not here today.
I can give a quick update.
Yeah.
So we met this afternoon. As is standard practice, we approved 4 expenditures in the budget that are greater than $10,000. One of them a tuition expenditure, transportation, and then 2 police/security expenditures, all of which were budgeted, many of which came in under the original allocation. And then we're pushing Dr. Lavalva to try to get the financial audit back for 23-24. That's due in January. And he's on it.
Those always feel
As
like
we-
taking long.
Well, the state extended the deadline for the auditors to be able to submit the audit, so it's now in January. It used to be in November, years ago. So, it is what it is. It's coming.
All right, anything else around finance? All right, thanks, Mr. All right, personnel, Mrs. Buck.
Okay, so the school community will recall that our former supervisor of student services also served as assistant principal. So we are looking for solutions since she has left the school. And last meeting, the Board of Ed approved Mrs. Stutzville to assume the leadership of student services on
right, and then policy, Mr. Roberto.
Yeah, policy, we met last week. Tonight, there are 2 policies up for second reading and adoption. Also at last week's policy, we reviewed our current policy regarding residents who are undergoing renovations or construction, just to make sure that we're up to speed on everything. Nothing new there, but as we do periodically, we like to review current policies in an effort to make sure that we're up to speed and enforcing them with the best interest of the school and taxpayers in mind. So that's on that. And then, as mentioned, this was also Mrs. Maddox's last policy meeting. Over the past 2 years, I've really enjoyed, Mrs. Maddox, both working with you and learning from you on the board as a whole and also the policy committee. Many of you know, but Mrs. Maddox is a mom, an educator, a businesswoman, and a true professional in every sense of the word. Spring Lake is lucky to have had such a great person serve for the past 2 terms, and you'll be here with us.
Yep. All right, thank you for those words too, I appreciate you saying that. Okay, liaison reports for boosters, Mrs. Martin.
Okay, just 2 updates. So continuing the shoot-arounds on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. It's been pretty successful. Lots of, I've been seeing it in the games. The kids have been making more shots, so I think shoot-arounds are working. Very impactful. Second is, there's an inventory blowout for the boosters for Christmas holiday gifts. Reach out to Eric Boucher or to Kevin Farmer if you're interested in buying any swag for the holidays.
All right, PTA, Mrs. Bennett.
PTA did not have a meeting this month, but they had a very successful kids fair. And next year,
All right, anything on the superintendent's report?
I turn our acknowledgement from administration over to Mr. Layton, who has a closer tie to these events.
So first, we're going to start with our holiday concert, and just catching up our agenda here on the screen. So just want to thank Mrs. Penrod and commend the students for a job well done at our holiday band and course concert that was held on Wednesday, January 11, 2024. It was really, really, oh my gosh.
Don't take us into January already.
December. Sorry, thank you. That was held on December 11, 2024. It was really a great show, and it was well attended, and the students sounded great to see our students up there and performing some pretty advanced pieces as well as beginner pieces, and merging those students together is really just a treat, and really put everybody, I think, in a really nice holiday spirit. Our PTA Holiday Gift Fair, I'd like to thank the PTA and all the volunteers who came out to support this year's Holiday Gift Fair. It's amazing how they transform our library into a winter wonderland, and I even purchased some gifts for my own nice from there, so it was awesome. And our student entrepreneur table was amazing, and it was really, really neat to see them start to get those early works of entrepreneurship and what it's like to produce something and sell it. So really, really awesome. So thank you. PTA cookies for the faculty. Favorite week of the year. Definitely a front runner that I'm just not going to say it out loud. No, but thank you to the PTA, all the members who provided the yummy treats for our faculty the week of December 9th. December 9th, had it right that time. And this is a week that everybody in Mounts truly looks forward to, and the gift that just keeps on giving. So, thank you. PTA Giving Tree. This is an awesome thing that the PTA supports, and Mrs. Tolucci spearheads. So thank you for all of our work this year to coordinate the PTA Giving Tree, and a big thank you for those who donated. Last week, they donated the gifts to the Interfaith Neighbors in Asbury Park. It was wonderful to see our Mounts community come together in giving. Over 100 gifts were donated, and they'll be shared with children in need during this holiday season. So thank you. And then our intermediate grades went caroling. It's great, and on behalf of Dr. Lavalva and the Monmouth County Superintendent's Roundtable, we'd like to extend a big thank you to our grades 3 through 5 students for their performance at the Breakers on Friday, December 13th, 2024. It is always a pleasure to see our students perform. And also a big thank you to Mrs. Abbott, Mrs. Callahan, Mrs. Smigul, and Mrs. Granick for continuing this tradition. Our students also went to the arbors to perform and spread holiday cheer. So it was a job well done, and everybody just did a great job. On the program updates, Tiger Time began on December December 2nd for those students invited. That's more for additional academic support help, not enrichment. And our winter enrichment catalogs will be distributed when we return from the holiday break. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you as well to the PTA right now for their continued support in helping us bring a dozen winter enrichment activities. I'm not going to tease it too much. I want you to see the catalog. There's something for everyone. And based on some feedback too, I believe we added a Lego section as well. So really, really cool, and we're excited for that to take place. So
Enrollment is up by one student at HW Mounts, and some changes at the high school levels from one school to another, but the same number of students. We also had one allegation of HIV, which is currently being investigated, and a report should be issued shortly. I'll be able to present to the board in executive session at next meeting. We have no incidents of SSD to report. That's safety or school safety data. We had 2 drills in December 6th and 9th, and we move on to the action items. This is Kevin.
All right, so can we get the approval of the minutes from both well, we'll start with the October 28th meeting. So can I get approval on those minutes? I appreciate everyone giving me time to go back on those from the last meeting. So if I can get a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Any questions on this?
Mrs. Martin,
Abstain.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Moran is absent, Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gibson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, so can I get a motion for number 2 minutes, minutes of the regular meeting and executive session from November 25th?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that one as well. Any questions on that one? All right.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Abstain.
Mr. Moran is absent, Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gibson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to curriculum and instruction, we need a motion to approve A1.
Just a class trip
That's it.
for 7th and 8th grade students to join Mrs. Cosentino and Ms. Mason at a peer workshop in Mass.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it again. Dave and I are going back and forth.
Now you can switch it up. It's
Yeah,
nice.
any questions on A1? All right.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gibson.
Yes. All right, personnel, do you want to walk us through B1?
Personnel is the monthly list of employees attending training and services. You'll see most of it is the CPD, which is the contract we have with Mrs. Opatoski to provide the CPD training.
All right, great. Can I get a motion for B1, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All right, any questions? Comments? Okay.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gibson.
Yes. All right, you want to take us through policy?
And but just as a note, the CPD training, just for everybody's edification, that's where all the districts come together, all the Management sending districts, and they send teachers to be trained collaboratively. So it's certainly very assisting where we have our grade levels that are independent. One teacher per grade level in each grade to get the opportunity to meet with colleagues at the same grade level from other school districts. With regard to policy, there are no facility use requests for this month, it's a short month of December. We do have the 2 motions that, 2 policies Mr. Rowe had referenced earlier on second reading and adoption. And we also have a request from one family currently under construction to extend their tuition-free enrollment by 4 months. They believe the project will be complete by that time, and I would recommend that the board consider approving that.
All right, can I get a motion for C1 to C2?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Can I just ask, on C2, I know you've been in conversations with the family, but I assume that they're far enough along that we feel this 4-month extension, get them in, it's not a matter, it's just a matter of timing, not being as perfect as they originally thought.
Yeah, well, construction takes a long time.
Yeah.
Just for an Atlantic modular job, it However, it's not. So it takes time.
Yeah.
And they're close, the house is beautiful, it's moving along at a nice pace.
Yeah.
And they're very optimistic it'll be complete by early April, but they have until the end of April to get this
Okay.
extension.
As long as it's moving along and we see clear progress, and I think it's moving what we discussed for the policy. Any other questions or concerns?
I have a question, I haven't seen the shed, so have we done extensions in the past?
So we haven't done it officially like this before, but we've had people that have run over on their construction, but part of how the policy reads is that we have to grant an extension. So I think putting it into practice and voting on it is the right way to move forward, but it is part of our policy, they give 12 months. And we can extend it, we have the right to extend it if we see the progress that we expect to see.
Okay.
So,
That makes sense.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Dave, did I say that right? All right, any other questions?
No, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gibbon.
Yes. Okay, moving on to finance.
In finance, we have the board secretary and treasurer reports from November, the bills list from December, the payroll expenses from the second half of November and the first half of December. D4 is the recommendation of the motion to join the cooperative of Bergen County. D5 is a motion to approve a contract between, so Mr. Dave Hallman was the superintendent of the Belmar schools for approximately 9 years. He subsequently retired and is working on various endeavors. He began a private consulting company, and I would like to recommend that we contract him to do the assistant principal role in a very short, not to exceed 10 hours per week. He would be here one day, a full day on Thursdays, and then the other hours as needed. It could often be just a Thursday, but other weeks it may be more, but never to exceed 10 hours. This will allow us to have the full replacement for Mrs. Levine's position, not at a cost that's higher than her budgeted allotment. In fact, it's a good amount lower than her original allotment, so there'll be some savings there as well. And we have two professionals who have had longstanding careers in education joining us for these roles, Mrs. Spill and Mr. Holman. And lastly, D6 is a motion to terminate the original tuition contract with Spring Lake and Wall Township. There were some changes in the individual students' individualized education plan, so we would terminate that contract and approve a new one at the rate of $44,443 as per the terms of the plan, effective September 4th through June 30th, 2020.
Okay, great. All right, can we get a motion for D1 through D6?
Ask a question?
Actually, if we don't ask questions at this time, we'll have to wait till the point for public. Sorry. Can I get a motion on D1 through D6?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Great. Any questions on D1 through D6? I just think on D5, so this is our interim solution
Correct.
until we get into the new year and start planning on what our more permanent options would be.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that's clear, that everything we're doing at this point to backfill Natalie is still on an interim basis, but gives us the flexibility to make decisions within a 30-day window. And then we can, when the board reorganizes in January and we start having our meetings, we can start making decisions on what's next. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Any questions or other comments anyone have? All right, we're ready.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gibbon.
Yes. Okay, now we're on to public comments on, we don't mind if it's agenda or non-agenda, but it's now the public comment section, so.
So, quick question, Wilfredo Gonsalvio,
Yep.
511 Road. Is there a need to bring in a temporary position or person with the amount of students we have for to come for the hours of this, the new part, 10 hours, whatever it is? Or is it necessary?
So this board has reviewed what our staffing plan is, and that's why we're doing this on an interim basis, because it gives us time to actually do a more thorough job evaluating it. But to just stop cold turkey, we don't feel like we're prepared for that yet, based administrative job that has to be managed to the state, to the federal government, any of that process that we have, that doesn't change, no matter what our size is. So we as a board have aligned to take this interim step until our new board comes into place in January and we can spend more time talking about the long-term plan.
I can appreciate that, but last year we had Dr. Laval doing 2 roles. So now we don't, we hired Mr. Principal Layton to cover one of the administrators.
He's still doing 2 roles. He's a superintendent and
I
mayor.
understand that, but we have a principal, right? You were a principal last year?
Right, but we also had.
Then we
suspended-
didn't have a BA at that
We
point.
had a BA suspended.
Okay.
So we're the same, and while I appreciate your comment, and it's noted, but we've decided to do an interim basis until we're ready to go to that next step. Anything else? Agenda or non-agenda? Go ahead, Mrs. Lynch.
Cheryl Lynch, at the place. With tonight being Karen's last board event meeting, as a board member, hopefully not the last board member meeting, but I wanted to take this time to congratulate you and thank you for your persistence, perseverance, dedication, and professionalism over the last 6 years, and prior to that, in your involvement with HW Mounts. Your time at Mounts has been, on the board, has been much appreciated, and you preceded this entire board, and all administrators that are here today have made a great amount of progress, helped make great hires, and given much of yourself and your personal time to the students of HW Mounts. It is unfortunate that the recent election was slightly soured by some negativity caused by your opponent. I do hope from the bottom of my heart that that negativity does not stay with you, and that you leave HW Mounts as your role on this board being proud and satisfied with all the work that you have accomplished along with Noel in your 6 years and the work that you've done recently. So with that, I wanted to say thank you from many of your friends and my family. And I have
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mrs. Lynch. Any other comments from the audience? Okay, so with that, just new business, I think we have a few things to talk through. Right?
So in new business, the reorganization meeting of the new board will be on January 6th. That's not new business, that had been advertised originally, and then we'll continue to stay through. And then at the January 6th meeting, we determined the schedule of meetings for the entirety of the school year. We've historically stuck with Monday evenings, third or fourth Monday of each month. I know that there are some conflicts with the impending the very first meeting of January, so we canvassed the board, and it looks like that first meeting will be Thursday, January 23rd. But then we would advertise the rest of the meetings after we would decide on them together as a board on January 6th.
Okay. I think it's good that we're getting the January meeting scheduled. That gives everybody plenty of time. And then on the January 6th meeting, we can make the calendar for the year as best we can. There's always some changes that happen, but as best we can for that. So I think that makes sense. Unless there's anything.
That's all I have for new business. I would say that also we advertise for interest to join the ad hoc committee that the board is going to be putting together, both community members and parents and faculty. And we only sent out the form for expressing interest on Friday afternoon. We already have 13 people dedicated to making this commitment, so I think it's a wonderful testament to the people who are out there and want to be involved with our school and continuing to make it better and better every day. So thank you to those 13 originals, but that's what they're working on.
Yeah, we're gonna send that to the borough to distribute to the
Yes.
town, right?
Yes, although I'm pleased to see there are already 4 community members who don't have an affiliation today with the school, but
to, legal issues that are attorney-client privileged, and then also, matters of employees and their terms of their contract. We will not be taking any action afterwards, so, I mean, you're welcome to sit around for us to come out and then close, but we won't be taking any action. All right, so with that, can I get a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make one.
I'll second.
Mrs. Norton,
Yes.
Mrs. Maddock,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Neal.
Yes. Happy holidays to